Type in the chat box if I'm audible to you guys. Yes, am I audible, JD? Okay, thank you. So we'll just begin the webinar in like a minute or so, waiting for a few more people to join. I'll start the webinar at 10:04. Hello everyone, I am Siddarth Singh from CodeChef-VIT and today I'm going to take a webinar on backend development with Golang. I am a second year student at VIT Vellore and I'm in CSE core branch, and that's all about me. So I'll get started on the webinar. So the topic of the webinar is getting started with Go. We'll be creating REST APIs, and the main advantage of Go is the simple and fast deployment that it provides. So what is Go? Go is Go is basically a statically typed language. It was designed at Google by Robert, and like these people designed it at Google. And every project that Google makes, mostly they use Go as their backend. So and Go is a very fast language, and Go is similar to C, but it has some more advanced features compared to C. So what is an API? In simple terms, an API is a way to fetch some sort of data from our database through our server. So when we make apps, when we make front end application, like when we make a project, there's a front end and a back end. So front end, the guy who makes the front end, his job is to display data beautifully, and the back end guy's job is mainly to send the data to him through our database. So what is a CRUD API? CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. We will be making an API which will be doing all these four things. We'll be creating data, we'll be reading the data, we'll be updating the data, and we'll be also deleting the data. And we'll be storing all this data in our database and perform these operations through our API. So what will we make today? We'll be making a book management system where the user can add a book, the user can fetch books, the user can update their details, and the user can delete a book. So basically, I'll be able to add data of a book. I'll be able to fetch all the books that I've added. I'll be able to fetch a single book with its unique ID. I'll be able to update the data of a book, and I'll be able to delete a singular book record. So the repository link for the code that I'll be doing today is given here. If you are ever stuck, and you can refer this link for all the code that I'll be doing today. So let's get started with the Go. So first of all, you should navigate, if you're using a terminal, you navigate like I am doing to the folder where we'll be making the Go file. Otherwise, you can simply just navigate to the folder using the GUI and create a new folder there. I'll make it bigger so it's visible to you guys. So first of all, I'm going to navigate to the folder where I'll make the Go project. Okay, so I've made a folder, a Go folder basically where I store all my Go projects. So I'm there right now. And if I if I type ls, it will show me all the projects that I've made. So I'll make a new folder in this folder, which will contain the API that we will be making today. So I'll just create a folder mkdir book rest. This will be the name of the folder, and I'll navigate inside this folder and open VS Code inside this folder using the code dot command. Now that I'm in this folder, I'll first of all create a every folder has to have a main root file called main.go. This will be the entry project for your Go. It will be the entry point for your Go project. So every main.go file has to start with the package main, and it has to have a func main. This function will be basically be able. We will be using this function to enter into our application. So some basic commands of Go I'll show you right now. Like if you want to print something, you just have to do fmt dot print line hello. Now if I run this, if I open the terminal and I write go run main.go, see it prints hello because we have written this code which will print the hello message. This is basically the command for that. So I guess I'll explain to you every part of the code as I go through the code, not like this. This is just a basic starting. And also if you, these are the Go pre-made packages. So if you use them, they automatically get imported here. We'll be creating our own package also, and we'll also be using that in our app. So let's get started. Right now I'm going to keep the func main empty. So every Go project has, wait, let me zoom it in so that it's more visible to you guys. Yeah. So every Go project, every big Go project has to have a Go mod file. It will be basically used to handle all the packages that you install in your project. So for that you have to type go mod init. Now whatever name you type after this will be used as your package name, but I suggest using the GitHub link that I'll show you, so that you can, when you upload it, it makes more sense and the code is more readable, and all the other packages of Go are also use the GitHub format. So you have to type github.com slash, now after github.com slash, you have to type whatever username that you have on GitHub. So I'll type my username and then the name of this project, book rest. So now it's showing creating a new mod file. Here we got our mod file with the module name. that we provided, github.com/bookrest. Now, what we have to do, and now the main part of a backend project is an env file. It will be used to store all the data of our, uh, basically all the data that we do not want to upload or share with all others. It will provide key information about our database. So we have to use this so that no one can read our code and get access to our database. So you can create a new file from here or just by typing a touch command. I'll be using this for now. All you have to type is .env and press enter. This will create an env file. Now this env file has to have exactly what I'm typing. You can use the env example on the repo link that I have, my teammates have provided. You can use it or exactly type as I type. So first you need a db host equal to 127.0.0.1. This is basically your local host. This is this you have to provide by default. Right now we are not uploading our, we are not using our code, like we are not putting our code for the world right now. We are using it on our local computer. Now db driver. This I'll be using Postgres for this project, so I'll type Postgres. If you're using MySQL, you can type MySQL also. DB user. This also you should type Postgres. I'll be showing you how to create a table in using pgadmin. In that, I'll create the table for the Postgres user only. So for right now, you can type post DB user as Postgres. DB password. Here you should type the password that you have set for your database. I have set it as password only. Now DB name. This is the name of the database. I'll name it bookdb. And DB port. This will be the default Postgres port, which is 5432. So this is our env file is ready right now. We'll get back to this later when we'll be creating our the file for which will be interacting with the database. It is good practice if you are pushing your code to GitHub. It is basically a must. You have to make a git ignore file, and in this you have to type .env so that you do not push all your code to GitHub. You do not push your env file to GitHub because this is private information. It should be just, it should stay with just you. Okay, so we'll now basically start we'll just get into our main project right now. So first we have to make a folder API. Now in API, I'll create half of it in the terminal. Okay, I'll navigate to API, cd API. Now in this, you have to make two folders right now. You have to make a models folder and a controllers folder. So mkdir models, mkdir controllers. As you can see, now I have two folders inside this. Now in the models folder, now we'll be basically starting with our database, now creating our API. So in this, you create book.go. A model is basically the structure of your object that is going to be stored in the database. You'll understand this more when I make it, while I'm making it. But basically, a model is like I'll make a book, right? I'll make a book. I'll store it into the database. So a model will contain all the information on that singular book that I'm making. Like a book will have a title, it will have a unique ID, it will have an author, it will have an image URL, it will have a description. So that's all I'm gonna making right now. So package models. Every folder will have package of the same folder. So if you inside this folder, any file that you make will have package models on the top of it. It has to have that to run. So I'll make a book now. Type book. Now the book is a structure. So type book structure. This is the first part. A book has to have a unique ID, which is UUID. A UUID is automatically generated unique ID for us. So it is already a pre-made package by Google that we can use. And now we are also using the GORM package, which is basically GORM, which is a package that is used to interact with our database. So GORM. If you have studied DBMS, you will know that a primary key is basically the unique part of the our data. So every new object we make will be unique. So primary key. And JSON is basically when we show the database to our front end guy, it will go through a JSON format. See, when I typed this uuid.uuid, it automatically imported the package. However, if you do not have this package, most of you will not have it right now pre-installed. So what you do is copy this and you like basically type go to your main root folder and type go get and paste this. Like or you guys you should type this. It will install this package for you to use. So whenever you type this, then it will automatically import into your file. So I'll get to title. This will be the title of the book. It is of type string. This is a unique type given to us by this package only. It's of the UUID is of the type UUID. Okay. So again GORM size is 255. We'll be using this max size for this string, and it will be of the type not null because we want the string to not be null right now. Okay, and then it will be oh wait, I forgot to put this. Okay, so it is done, and I'll put the JSON title. Now I'll do the same for all the other fields. Author, string. Again the same. I'll just copy and paste this. It will be author and image URL. That is also of the type string. And here it is, image URL. Okay, and then the final which is description. String, and again just description. Okay, I think it's correct. Yeah, I think it's correct. Let's go forward. Now we'll be making a function before create. Before create function will ensure that whenever we make a new object into our database, it will ensure the minimum requirements to enter our database. So basically, we'll be assigning a UUID to the field. I'll code it right now, then I'll explain it to you. Func. So first of all, you can see it is showing a yellow outline. It will show this for all your function because you have created it in a capital name, and a capital name means you have to export it. But right now we are not exported anywhere. So all you can do is add a comment line of the same name and three dots. If you do this, it will go away. So what we are doing here, this is basically the interface part of Golang. This is the most unique part of Golang there is. So this is what we are doing here is basically interface is a data type of Golang in which it it unifies all the function that belong to the same interface. So what we have defined here is that before create function belongs to the type book. So only like book will operate on before create. If we use any other data type, then for that before create we can make a different one, and it will be behave differently for it. So if we type something else here and a different type, then we can do different things inside it, but we can keep the name of the function same. That is basically what is Go interface doing. No, so now what we are doing before create, why this is important is whenever a user is going to enter data for the book, he obviously cannot make a UUID. He cannot put a UUID as to our database directly. So what we are going to do is when he sends us the data, just before adding the data into the database, we'll run this function and it will make a unique ID and add it to the field. Like all these fields the user will provide, and this last one we will fill it on our own and save it to our database. So this is what basically this function is doing. Now we'll create a new function called savebook, which will help us to save the book into our database. So this is all of the same type of the same interface book. So this is basically the interface part. Save book. It will accept a parameter of the type database gom.db. So see automatically it imported here gom.db, and it will return a, a book or an error. If there's no error, it will return nil instead of the error. Okay. So this part is basically the interface part. This is all the arguments that our function is getting. It's basically like all the other languages like C. And then this is a return type of all the values that we're going to be returning. So we'll make a variable uh, error of type error. We'll this is something nice. What we're going to do is this is a function. You have to basically learn this. I'll explain to you what it's doing. Again, the same thing came, so I'll make the comment line here. Yeah. So what this function is basically doing, it is of the type gorm is handling it. So it is db.debug dot create. Now inside this create we have passed this b, and b is of type book. So basically we are creating a table of type book. This is what basically this is doing, and a dot error. So what we have done two things at once. So if there is no error, it will throw nil here and we'll get nil value in the error, and this function will be executed. If there's an error, this function will be executed and we'll get an error value here. So after every error, we have to check if there is an error. If error not equal to nil, we just have to return an empty book. An empty book and the error. And otherwise just return the object and the error. Okay, so our saved book has been created. Now there are a lot of more functions that we're going to cover, like find all books is the first function that we'll do. So what this does is creates it and adds it also to the database. So we are basically adding this is the CRUD, the C part of our CRUD application. Okay. So now find all books, same. This is also of the type DB. We have to provide this argument, and the return type is a book, comma error. Now this we'll write it. It's basically the same for the beginning. Var error books book books equal to see. Now this is a new part in Go which you will not have seen in other languages. This is a colon and then an equal to. So basically, like we wrote here, a variable error of type errors. If we use this type of equal to, we don't have to specify the variable. It automatically takes the type of this. So what the type here is, we have this is a list, an array. If in other languages, in Go it is called a slice. It is a slice of books because we want to find all the books. So this is a slice. It's a list of all the books. So error equal to, again we'll just do db.debug dot model. Now we'll tell it where we want to search it. We want to search it. We want a type book, and we want a type book, and we want limit as 100. You like this will limit it to only 100 books at a time. So you can skip this if you don't want to. I just like to do it. You find books and at last return the error. If there is error, return an empty book and the error. Else you just return the list of books and the nil error. Wait, I have to type the find all book, and this has to be a type of list. We'll pass a list here. The return type is the list, so it is returning a list of books, right? So that's it. Now we'll find individual book. We'll provide a ID and we'll find the book by our ID. Again, gorm.db, and we need an ID of type uuid dot uuid, and the return type is a single book because we'll find a single book by ID and error. So again, we'll be using the same code, variable error of type error equal to db.debug dot model. Now this part is different in our code. UUID equal to question mark, and after the question mark you put a comma and the ID of what you want to search in the UUID, and when you have matched it, take it, take that value and send it to us. Send it to the database. Like we have to show it as our output, right? So again, if error, I'll just error not equal to nil, return a book, comma error, and then just if there's this type of an error, is record not found, so we can return book not found. This is basically provided by our package. It will automatically fire if the book is not in our database. Now return. If everything goes right, we can just return the book. Yeah. So the next function is the update book function. We are almost done with our functions. Again, we'll have to provide the ID of the book that we want to update the data of, and we'll be returning a book or an error. Uh, Basically, it returns both every time. If there's not an error, it will just show nil as the error. Again, we'll have to provide info because it will have to match the UUID to the database. Comma ID. It will take the value. This code is pretty readable if you think about it, because it's just telling you what it's doing and you update it. Update the new value instead of that. That's what you're basically doing. In this case, we'll be doing, we did not put the end error part because we need the value db for this. So what you're gonna do is we just put db.error. If db.error, instead of storing dot error directly into error, we just doing db.error not equal to nil, return. Now wait, let me just fix this. And now we'll be using that error value. We'll just copy this. Instead, I'll just take the book and dot error. I'll just return the same thing if there's an error. And here I'll use error. And I'll just return this value if there's no error. Now we are at our last operation. We are almost done. We are just at delete a book. If you have any doubts, my friend will help you in solving those doubts. And if I feel like if I see them in the middle, I'll also answer it. This has a return type of int 64 because we are storing it in our database and we want to return the row that is from which the data is deleted. We'll not be sending this data to the JSON, but I'm still using it. Now you'll see me do DB types because I have to use DB somewhere else also, which I'm extracting. Again, it's asking where I want to delete, which ID I want to delete. So I'll give it that, and I'll just take this value here and but UUID ID. I'll take the book and I'll delete it. So take the book and I'll delete the book. Okay. If db.error return 0 comma db.error and otherwise just return. I wanted to use this db.rows affected property. That's why I did not take the error value here like I usually take for the others. Rows affected and nil. So we are done with our model. Now we'll start with our controllers. So in the controller, first make a base.go file. This will act as the entry point into the control. This will initialize our database to get ready to store the data. Now I'll create a type server. This structure will help me in future operations that I'll be using all across this project. So I'll create a type server structure. It's a structure and it has two properties. It has database, which is of type gom.db that we are using. See, it automatically gets imported, and I have a router which I'll use to access the different CRUD APIs that I'll make. Gin.engine. I'll be using Gin for this project. I think it's the best package to handle this requests. Okay. Now I'll be initializing this server for the like this will happen every time you run the project. So function. Now this will take Basically, this will take the interface of the type server and initialize. Initialize. It will take many properties of the database like DB driver, DB user. It will take DB password. It will take DB port where we want to host it. It will take DB host and DB name. All of these are of the type string. So I'll just start doing it. Variable error. DB URL. This all of you guys have to do the same. You don't have to change it. Uh, I'll try to explain it to you, but like it's not that important. It will be the same for everyone. I'll copy it from my. I'll copy it and I'll explain it to you. You can also refer to the repository there. So it will take host, port, user, DB name, SSL mode, and password. And I'll give it the values of all these values that I've made here. Yeah, this will come. Yeah. And then I'll use. This is very zoomed. Wait, let me unzoom it a little. Or is the previous one fine? Wait. Let me zoom it only. I'll hide this. Okay, so DB URL server .db. Now every time you want to refer to a DB, you can just type server.db because this server takes the type server and server has the property like basically the type DB stored in it. Comma error to gone.open DB driver comma DB URL. See, this is basically initializing. It is opening the database for us. This is automatic. This automatically does everything for you. You don't need to do anything. So if error not equal to nil, again the same thing every time. Whenever you have a chance of getting an error, you have to do this. Fmt dot. Okay, and log dot fatal. Okay, and else if there is no error, it will show you are connected. Wait, yeah, to provide this value here. Yeah, server dot db dot debug dot auto migrate. See, now this is the first time we are using our own made data type. We provide it in the models folder, so it automatically uh, int- gets imported here also. So that's why I was telling you of the Go mod file. Okay, so this is why it's used. Server dot run dot router. We have to initialize the router. Gen dot default and server dot initial. This will show an error right now. Whenever now we'll be soon defining this function, then it will stop showing the error. Okay. For now, let's keep it that way, and now we'll just create the final function, which is run. Func of the type server. It will do run. It will run, and it will return an address where it is running of type string. Fmt dot println listening to port 8080. I'll use 8080 for this. You can use any number you want. Log dot fatal. So what basically this is doing, I'll explain to you right now. We have a server which has two. The structure has a database of type gorm.database and a router of type gin.engine. Now this initialize function, what it is doing, every time you run the project or the app, it will set this value to the DB URL, and this automatically connects. It collects all these values that you have set in the .env file, and it will just send it to the this. You will use this function and it will initialize the database. It will open the database and you can start interacting with the database. So this is basically what we are doing with this, and this run function just starts on this address. It will just start the router. We'll connect to the localhost on this address. This is what basically HTTP listen and serve is doing. So now we just have to make two more files to go. Okay, so the next file is called book controllers package controllers. Now this basically we are doing the same, but now we are attaching it to our database and we're returning the data. This is basically the initial functions that we created were used to interact with the database. These are gonna interact with the user. Create book c star gin dot context, and it will just will do that same thing again. Okay, now body comma error. This IO util will help us read the request that the user is sending us. C dot request. This part contains all the data about our request and response. Dot body. IO util is reading the request and the body of the request. If there's no error, if there's an error, I mean. So you just return c.json. This is a property of Gin. You can directly return status bad request and gin.h. Everything inside gin.h will return in a JSON format. Error reading records because error reading because you cannot read the request only, so that's the error it is showing, and just a simple return book of type models dot book. Now we'll save it to our database. Like I talked about, we have to do the book before putting it into the database. We are doing this, and what we're going to do is error equal to json dot unmarshal. This is decoding the body from the JSON format to the format that we want to save it into the database. Okay. If error not equal to null, I'll just get the error that I have it from the repo. Or error in JSON because you cannot unmarshal. That's why it gave an error here. Okay. So now book created, comma error, save book server dot db. If error is there, c.json http dot status bad request comma gin dot h error and could not save data because it gave an error when we were trying to save the book. Now c.json, if there everything went all right, we'll return status code 200 and book created. So what I've done here, I've shown you two ways to send the status code. You can directly type the status code, or you can use the pre-made status code from the HTTP package. Okay, so get books. Obviously, the param Basically a param is what when you provided the localhost link. After that, the value of the ID that you provide, it will obviously be of the type string. So you store it into the ID, and now you have to pass it into a UUID type, because in the earlier function that we gave, we were using the UUID type. In the function that we created here, book, we are using of type UUID. So we have to change it to the type UUID. Again, I'm checking for the error. I'll just copy this. You can type it out. It will return a bad request, and it will return could not pass UUID, because if the UID is wrong, it will return this. Okay. Wait a second. Wait a second. This function I wrote for the get book. This is the get book function. It will get the, because I'm using the UUID because I want a single book. So this is the get book function that I wrote. So book. We wrote the function find book by ID. It will return the value of the book, of all the properties of the book. It will return, and the UUID type of book ID, and c.json http.status. Okay, comma book is the get book type. I'll make another function here of type get all books. The function that we created earlier, find all books, it will take the type database. So we'll give it the type server.db, and if there's no error, like if there's an error, it will show record not found. Otherwise, we return it. It is a list, so we'll return this one a bit differently. What we're gonna do is http dot status, okay, and jin.h. See, this is basically the JSON, so you can manipulate it as we want. So I'll write books, and I'll put books. Now we've done. Now two more functions are left. The update book is left, and then just finally the delete book is left. After that, we are mostly done with it. So I'll start doing the update one. Func with my caps lock was on. Update book, We'll obviously want the UUID. So basically we're doing it the same way. We'll parse the UUID. Just copy paste it. And if there's an error parsing, we'll just put the same thing here. If there's an error in parsing the UUID, we'll show the error. Now we'll get the body of it. Body IOUtil again. We want to read the request that the user is sending. You'll get what a request is after, like in the end when I'll show you sending a request. Body, okay. And again, if there's an error, I'll paste it here. There's an error in reading the records, which is I've written this wrong, but it should be error in reading the request. We are unmarshalling the JSON, and basically we are unmasking the JSON so that we can store it into the database. We are converting the JSON into something that our database can understand. That is what unmasking does. So if there's an error, I have put this error in JSON because you have put a wrong format of JSON, or JSON is wrong basically. Now updated book. Update book. We have to pass a server and the UUID as we did before, comma book ID. Right. And if there was an error in this, we just show the error in updating the data, and just finally just show the data in JSON. Status okay. Updated book, and I'll just remove this. We are on to our final function, which is delete. We want the ID of which book we want to delete. Now we parse it to the type UUID. If there's an error in parsing, we just show it. And we give a reference to we create a reference book of type book, so it can use all the functions that we defined for it. So what we are doing here, this is also a feature of Go. uh, if you can remember, delete a book, we were returning the row in which the book was deleted and an error. So if when a user is deleting the data, he is not bothered with what row we deleted the our book. So this we can use because it needs two values, but we are not going to use this value, so we can use an underscore. And if there's an error in deleting, we just simply do this. And lastly, just return a record deleted. Message record deleted. That's all we're going to do. And okay, so we're done with our final function. Now we just have to link these functions to basically URL. So we're going to create a file routes.go. Now inside routes.go, this is a very small file. Package controllers. It's a function of type server. This is the initialize routes that I was talking about. I'll just copy it from here. Initialize routes. See, the error went away. Now we'll just define this function s.router dot post method. Now post method is used when you want to add data to a database. So we are using post method books. It will happen to the basic link of localhost, and after that books when we add, and we have to send a body. That is what is a that is what we are doing here. We are telling it at which link it has to do what. S dot create book. Okay, now as this is the fun part. We are basically done. Get method. Now the benefit of using post and get is that also you can use the same route but do different things. Get books. S dot router dot. Now you want to get a single book, right? So what you're gonna do is slash books slash the UUID. This is the syntax for gin. You have to put a double quotes here and s dot get book. Patch. Patch request is used to update data. It's basically the same here. And finally, the last route is delete, which is the type delete. Again, the same thing. This is the benefit of using different methods. You'll be able to use the same link to do different things. Okay, now just last file that we have to write is server.go. In the API, we have to write a file server.go. This is the entry point. Package API, because it's in the API folder, right? Package API. Now a variable of the type server of a variable called server, and it will take all the properties that we gave to server. Now we'll create a function run. This is the last function that we need to create. It doesn't even take any value, just variable error of type error. Basically what we are doing is we are loading the env data that we stored in the env file. We are loading it here. This it's showing an error. Undefined. Wait. I'll have to. I guess I have to install it. Wait. Go get. Okay. So the error should be resolved now. Oh wait, I was writing it wrong. Go to, yeah. So if error is not there, so we'll just put this. So if there's an error, it will show error in getting env, not coming through, and it will just print the error here. And otherwise, it will just show we are getting the env values if we have successfully gotten the env values. Now just server dot initialize os dot get env that we are using. We have to use here. os.getEnv will help us get the env values. So we provide it here. Okay. So what it does is it will get the env value for db driver as we gave it of the db user, and just type this as I've typed it in this order only. The order should remain the same. Okay. Then all you have to do, the last thing is server dot run and give the port as 8080. Okay. The last thing is this. Now that we are done with the code, we have to do basically we have to set up our, what we have to do is make the database that we're going to store our values in. So I'll open a pg admin. This is a tool that you can easily use to make database. You can also make database using the command line, but this is way easier. So all you have to do is type the password. I'll type password because I set it as password, and in the servers I'll create on this right click, create a database, and bookdb as we had named it bookdb, and the owner is postgres only. Okay, so we have our database here ready. Okay, now all we have to do is go run main.go. Oh wait, we forgot to add things to our main what we forgot to add it to our main.go file, api.run. Yeah, all I have to do, go run main.go. Cannot connect to the database. Unknown driver Postgres. Wait. Oh yeah. I get it. We forgot to do one thing. We have to import it. We have to import Postgres separately. It does not auto import. So you do this. Just type, paste this code. Okay, it's up and running. It's created the database. It's listening to port 8080. Okay. So I'm gonna open Postman now. First of all, we'll see the get all books request. So when I send it, it will show an empty list because we have just created our database and we have stored no books in the database. Okay, so now we're going to store a book. Now what you have to do is just localhost and the link that we provided for create a book. Go to the body and paste all these things inside it. So the title of the book, I don't know if it's visible to you. I'll zoom it in. The title of the book is A Game of Thrones. Author, image URL, and description we have written. Now when we press send, it just gave us the value and it automatically generated a unique ID for it. Now when we try to get the books, when we send it, it will show, if it works, it has to show the book here. Okay, it got updated and our book came here. See? Now what we can do is we can add another book. Let's add another book. A Storm of Swords. Wait. Yeah. And the author is the same. And let's write a different description, a better book. Okay, now we send it. And for this, we got a different unique ID and it got created. Now, when we get it, it will show two books here, right? Now we'll get the single book path. For that, we'll use this unique ID. We'll copy it. Now, if we paste it here, it should show just this one, right? So paste it here, and I send it. So it just gave that single UUID. Now, if I change this UUID, like I put something else and I send it, it will show an error. Like it should show an error. Something went wrong. Wait. Uh, if I copy the UUID and I change it, could not pass UUID. It the error came that the UUID is wrong and it could not pass the UUID. Okay, now the patch request. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna update the title of the book. A Storm of Swords we have written. So we want to change it to a Clash of Kings, right? So we copy the UUID. We send the get request to check it once more. See the UUID is here. There are two books, a Game of Thrones and a Storm of Swords. So we paste this here. Okay. And now we want to change the title of Clash of Kings and we want to give the description as best book. So we send it. Now we got the response. Now it's time to check it. See, it changed from a Game of Thrones. It was Storm of Swords. It changed to a Clash of Kings. So this is basically a patch request. And the good thing about a patch request is you can just send the data that you want to edit. So like if I just want to edit the title, I can remove all of this and I can just say another book, A Feast for Crows. Now I send it. It updated. The best book will stay the same, but this will change. See, see, yeah. Now I'll try to delete this book. Okay, I copy the UUID. I say I put here and I delete it. If I send it, record deleted. Now I try the get request, and there's only one book. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. This was all. I hope you learned something new. Thank you so much.